Hello, Spookaroos. It's your host, Eric Winnells, talking to you on this intro to a remix episode. This one is going real old school. This is back from October of our very first year, 2016. And this is me and my hobgoblin, Jenny Blades Lassess, talking about our Halloween movie recommendations. We go to great length in the episode to explain that we're not saying that these are necessarily the best movies for Halloween or that they're the movies about Halloween. They're just movies that we think you might get a little bit of extra enjoyment out of watching around Halloween time. And I really don't have too much to say about it. That's exactly what it is. We're just going to talk about these movies. We do go by them kind of quick. We're not doing like deep dives into any of these movies. Although I do want to say, listening back, we bring up Hocus Pocus, and the way that I talk about it, you would think I had never seen it. And that is because when we recorded this episode, I had probably only ever seen it twice in my life, and one of those times includes when I saw it in the movie theater when it first came out. So I was not a Hocus Pocus expert by any means. So, I liked the film fine, but I wasn't like one of these crazy diehard fans. Now, having worked in Salem as the witch finder all these years now, and knowing that it was filmed there and becoming more familiar with where they filmed and having to show tourists all the time and that kind of thing, I've seen the movie probably 4 or 5 times since I recorded this episode. So just in the past few years. So, yes, I am more familiar with Hocus Pocus now. And if you ask me about it in Salem, I will know more about it when I meet you there. Otherwise, I think we stand by pretty much most of the things we say here. Slight trigger warning. I do use the F word, not fuck, the other F word. And it's funny to me because when I record this episode, I clearly say it like I have no compunction about saying it. But when I listen back to it now, I'm like, oh, I said that like a bunch of times right there. So times have changed, man. So I just wanted to let you know, like even when you're talking about the word, it's just weird. I don't know. Times have changed. It's probably for the better. It is for the better that you think twice about saying certain things. I left it in though, as this is a time capsule show, and even though it was just a few years ago, it shows you times have changed. So go enjoy these movie recommendations with me and my hobgoblin, Jenny Blades. Welcome to Spooky Ass Shit. I am your host, Eric Winnells, and with me tonight, my returning guest once again, Jenny Blades Lassess.
Hello.
I even remembered to include your actual name.
I'm back. Surprised you didn't call me Hobgoblin.
Well, I was going to get to that.
That's coming later.
My Hobgoblin.
Gotcha.
All right. Well, today we are going to give you some Halloween time movie recommendations. We had a little bit of trouble deciding exactly what that means. Like, are we talking about movies that are strictly about Halloween? Or are we just talking about horror movies in general? Are we talking about creepy movies? What are we talking about here? Mm-hmm. And the answer, I think, is going to end up being a little bit of all of those things.
Correct.
Because, for example, I love Silence of the Lambs. I think that's a great movie. It's a scary movie. There's some debate as to whether it's a horror movie or not, but it's definitely a creepy, scary
psychological, crazy movie.
And it's not a terrible movie to watch at Halloween time, but I wouldn't necessarily consider it like prime Halloween viewing.
Yeah.
Like, I think you can still, like, there are some movies that are just better around Halloween time. Mm-hmm. So that's mostly, speaking for me personally anyway, that's mostly what my list is. Like, these are movies that I would sit down on a fall night and enjoy. And I purposely even included some movies that the whole family can enjoy.
Yay!
Because I know that's actually how this idea started, because last time I saw you,
which was like the other day.
Yeah.
Yep.
Was just after you performed in a ghost tour.
I did.
Which we won't talk too much about. We'll just say that it happened. That's all.
I was a ghost.
There you go. And we went out to lunch afterwards, or at least we tried to get pumpkin beer, but they didn't have it.
Yeah, that didn't work too good. But
they're like, oh, we don't have it yet.
The other thing was all right.
Yeah, it was good, but still.
It's all right.
I wanted my pumpkin beer. Oh, well. And as we were sitting there, Jenny asked me if I knew of any movies that would be good for kids. You know, like creepy movies, Halloween movies for kids, because you said you were, as much as you love Charlie Brown,
I mean, yeah.
you're just a little sick of it.
Yeah, we have Charlie Brown and we have Hocus Pocus, which Hocus Pocus is fantastic. And Charlie Brown is good too.
Yeah.
But, like, I knew that there was more, and the person to ask was you.
Right. Now, immediately, one of the movies that came to mind immediately, speaking of like a children's movie, a little bit creepy, a little bit scary children's movie, is one that I grew up with, and I'm sure a lot of you did too, called Monster Squad. But that movie could be a little bit intense. Your youngest is 4, right?
Yeah.
So it might be a little bit intense for him.
He's still nervous about Hocus Pocus, so yeah.
Yeah. So your kid's kind of a wuss, so we got to be careful.
He doesn't want to be taken by the witch.
Right.
Which
No,
I
that's
was
understandable.
Which I
That's
said before. It's Sarah Jessica Parker. Come on now.
Yeah.
She's hot.
She's hot in that movie. Yeah. I will qualify that. I mean, whatever. I'm not hating on Sarah Jessica Parker. I got no beef with her.
She's cool.
The problem with Monster Squad, and I didn't really realize this until I watched it like a few years back, they use a lot of language that would not be acceptable in a children's movie today.
Oh, that's good to know.
They call each other fags.
Oh, yeah, well.
And they may or may not call each other retarded. I'm not sure if that happens.
Mm. But when you watch those older movies, that happens, like, just in general.
Yeah. But definitely the fags. I was like, the kid's like, oh, don't be a fag. Come on. And I was like, all right. It's a no-no term now. So I can't fully I can't recommend it without a qualifier. So that's not on my list for tonight. So I think basically we'll just kind of go back and forth. And I will point out that we'll post some, depending on what we end up talking about, maybe pictures, maybe trailers, something like that. Some kind of goodies from most of the films that we talk about on spookyassshit.com, where you can see pictures and sometimes video of this in every episode of Spooky Ass Shit. You can find us on social media. We got links to all of them there, but you can find us at facebook.com/spookyas.
Nice.
Yeah. So since you're the guest,
okay,
I'm going to let you give us your first pick for a good time Halloween watching.
Okay, my first pick is Hocus Pocus.
Nice. And tell us about it.
And it's also kid-friendly. It's about these 3 fictitious witches that lived in Salem, and they are brought back from the dead, and then they kind of cause amok all over Salem. Amok. Yeah. Do you like how I did that?
And, of course, parts of it actually were filmed in the real Salem.
This is true. You can go visit the sites there.
Yep. And when you do, you can find the Witchfinder General.
Ooh, yes.
And ask him for a personal tour of Salem. And maybe, if you are a good tipper, he will give you that tour.
Oh, that would be good.
And help you find witches.
Now, is he going to be roaming all around Salem?
Yes, mostly the heavily trafficked tourist areas, but yes.
Excellent.
All right. Yeah, Hocus Pocus. I remember seeing that one in the theater. What year did that come out? Do you have any idea?
No, 90s.
Yeah, it was definitely in the 90s. But I do remember going to see that in the theater. So.
And it has the guy from Criminal Minds.
Who's that?
The blonde kid on Criminal Minds. One of the investigators. He plays Thackeray Biggs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that in Criminal Minds or in Hocus Pocus?
In Hocus Pocus,
okay.
Thackeray Biggs is.
See, I didn't, even though I appreciate the movie, I like the movie, I'm not someone who watched it.
Ah, seriously.
Over and over and over again.
The kid who plays Thackeray Biggs is in Criminal Minds now.
All right. And Bette Midler, of course.
Bette Midler.
And Kathy Najimy.
Oh yeah, she's great. And the kid from. You probably watched this when you were a kid. It was a TV show, Erie, Indiana.
Yeah.
Did you watch Erie, Indiana?
I did. Oh, is he the main kid?
He's the main kid in the modern day.
That's
main
true.
Kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ormond something. I
never put 2 and 2 together, but yeah.
Yeah. Which
totally
that is a fantastic
show,
and
it is.
I did show Erie, Indiana to the kids, and both kids loved it.
Yeah, good. So there's an incidental recommendation.
Yeah,
if you can find the
two
old
kid
TV
ones
show, Erie, Indiana. That was a good show. It's just about a kid that moved to a town and there was just weird stuff and it was...
Yeah, a little creepy, but it
Yeah.
was just kind of a weird creepy, like dogs talking and like
Yeah,
things like
it wasn't as scary as like say Are You Afraid of the Dark or
I never
even
watched that.
Goosebumps.
I never watched that.
You never watched Are You Afraid of the Dark?
I didn't have Nickelodeon as a kid.
Oh,
Because wasn't that a Nickelodeon show?
it was.
Yeah, I didn't have Nickelodeon as a kid.
Oh, brother.
Sorry.
You got... All right, well, guess what?
Are we
We're
gonna
having
watch?
a night.
Oh God. Okay.
And we're going to come back and talk exclusively. You're going to join the Midnight Society.
Oh God, what's that?
You'll see.
Oh dear.
Kathy Najimy, in case you don't realize it, she's, to me, the most annoying character in the movie. And she, like, purposely messes up her face. She actually reminds me of somebody we went to high school with in that movie.
Really?
And I'll tell you later.
Okay.
I want to tell you on air.
I'm picking it up, but okay, good.
And not only is she the most annoying character in that movie, but she's supposed to be. She's also, probably hands down, one of the most annoying characters ever on television, animated or otherwise, but it happens to have been animated. She's Peggy Hill on King of the Hill.
Is she really?
Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah. But again,
I do enjoy
Peggy,
her. She's a character actress.
Peggy is
She's
written.
good.
Oh yeah, no, Peggy's written that way, so it actually shows you how good she is. That you're like, oh my God, Peggy Hill is the worst. She's the worst. I like King of the Hill, but like if it's a Peggy episode, it's like, but she generally gets her comeuppance in the episode, so.
Yeah,
but
she's pretty good though, and she's in the Disney's Descendants. Yes, I have a lot of children's shows because that's all we watch. But it's a Disney show. It's about the villains have children, and like the princes and princesses have children, and they're at a school, and they open up the school to the villains' children, and like whatever. Anyway, Kathy Najimy is in it. She plays Snow White's evil queen. To see her, you'd have no idea that that's who she was.
She's lost a lot of weight or something, right? Isn't she?
Yeah, and I think her costume too also pulls like at her
okay.
face in a way, and but the way that she acts, like I had to read the credits in order to know who she was.
And I don't know if this is still true, but I know that it definitely was true at one point. She's married to Dan from the Dan Band.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. They may or may not still be together, but
Interesting.
apparently between the two of us, we know an awful lot about Kathy Najimy.
Who knew?
All right, moving on. Let's see. Which one am I going to pick first to talk about? I guess I'll stay with a kid-friendly choice, but I'm going to go old school. I want to talk about 13 Ghosts.
That's a kid's one?
It's not strictly, like it wasn't necessarily made for children.
1960s?
But the 1960 version, not the
Because I'm
newer
talking
one.
the newer one.
No, not the newer one with Matthew Lillard, I think, is in it, and
Oh.
some other people.
Okay.
Which isn't that good a movie. It wasn't the worst movie ever, but the 1960 version of 13 Ghosts, directed by William Castle. Does that name mean anything to you?
Not at all.
Okay. William Castle is the motherfucking man. He was a director, but he was also a showman.
Mm-hmm.
And all of his, maybe not all of his movies, but a lot of his movies had like little gimmicks to them. So he did House on Haunted Hill. And there's a skeleton in that movie that like pops up. And so there was a skeleton that was rigged to fly down over the audience, like during the actual movie.
Oh, cool.
He did a movie called The Tingler. This is probably the most famous one. Where there was basically like this like thing that would crawl into you. And the only way you could get rid of it was to scream. Right? And you would know that it was with you because you'd feel a tingling. So they'd hook up some of the seats in the theater to like send a little electric jolt
Oh my gosh.
through you. And at the point they stopped the like Vincent Price is, you know, he like stops the movie and he's like, the tingler is loose in the theater. And like the seats would buzz and, you know, people would
awesome.
freak out. So he always had little gimmicks like that. Now 13 Ghosts had one too. 13 Ghosts came with special spooky vision glasses.
Mm-hmm.
There was probably a name for it, and I didn't research it enough. I forget what they called it. But there were these glasses that you'd put on, and it's basically like if you ever played a board game where you weren't supposed to know the answer, but there was like this little red film.
Yeah, with the red and
if you
could read the thing.
Right,
Yeah.
you could read it through that. It was essentially that technology. And if the gimmick was that if you were so afraid to see the ghost, just don't put on the glasses and you won't see him. But if you're brave enough, put on your glasses and you'll see all of the ghosts in the movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it still like that? Like if we got the movie, can we like get the
Well, the
glasses and
DVD
do
copy that I have,
Yeah.
it didn't. I don't think it came with the glasses, but it has it both ways. It has it so that the ghosts are just seen, and it has the way you can play it where you do that. And if you have a pair of 3D glasses, like the old school red and blue.
Oh yeah, let me just whip those
ones.
out. I actually could just make those.
Yeah, and you just get some red film and look through it. You'll be
That's
fine.
so neat.
Yeah. So that's kind of fun, but even without that gimmick, it's still just a fun movie. It's about a family who find out they inherit this estate, but what they don't know is that apparently the uncle that they inherited it from was collecting ghosts.
So it's kind of like the new, not as creepy, but the new has the same. The
Yeah,
newer
it's
one has the
yeah.
same story. Yeah.
Except there's like a little kid in this one, and but what the new one definitely doesn't have is Margaret Hamilton, aka the Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz.
Wow, neat.
There's always in these kind of movies where they go to the house, there's always a creepy butler or housekeeper.
Yeah.
She's the creepy housekeeper, who the whole time you kind of think like she's a witch and she's doing
Well, yeah, she is. She's a wicked
nasty
witch,
things,
obviously.
right? Yeah. I don't want to ruin the ending in case people want to check it out. So, but there's 12 ghosts and they're looking for the 13th. And it's got this great opening where you see the ghost because there's like a headless lion tamer and his lion. Those are two of the ghosts. And there's like a wailing woman. And like, so they kind of flash each of the ghosts like right in the beginning of the movie so you can see what they are and everything. And then
Oh, neat.
the 13th ghost is just a question mark because it's supposed to be
Dun, dun,
one of the people moving in,
Ooh.
Yeah. So,
That
but
sounds really good.
even though it's, it's creepy, but I still think that you could watch it as a family and the little ones wouldn't be, it's 1960. So it's not like,
Yeah.
and it's not gory or anything like that. So I think it's a winner for the family.
Cool.
All right, let's go back to Jenny Blades for her next choice.
Ooh, okay. Halloween.
That's on my list too. So
Not really kid friendly, but yeah.
No.
No, I love Michael Myers. He's fantastic.
it's not kid friendly, but you could watch it with like maybe a tween or a teenager.
Oh,
the only
yeah,
thing is
not little. Mine
there's a
are
little bit
though.
of sexuality and nudity, so you might be embarrassed as a parent to watch it. But get over it.
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's not really too gory. Like some are really.
It's
bad,
not gory
but
at all. Like you don't see. There's no like things of blood.
It's
There
just
are
creepy.
scenes of murder and stuff, and there is a dog that dies, which is rare in horror movies. In most horror movies, they don't even like show. Even the bad guy won't kill a dog. Like there's some limits because they want to keep the killer like somewhat sympathetic because they know that most people are kind of like excited by the killer and kind of rooting for him.
Yeah.
But no, in this one, Michael kills the dog. Michael Myers.
I didn't even realize.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that movie that every year I always forget, and I always think it's probably because I've closed my eyes for so long.
Yeah, it's legit one of my like of those. It's not 100% fair to call it a slasher movie because it's not a slasher movie in the sense of like the Friday the 13th movies. Even later on in the series, when it did get a little bit more gory, it was never on the same level as like a Freddy or a Jason, as far as that kind of like gore spectacular goes.
I try to stay away from too much of the crazy.
But then on the other hand, it is sort of considered one of the like foundations that slasher films are built on, and basically the direct forerunner to Freddy and Jason. Like it inspired, though it's definitely a direct forerunner to Friday the 13th, because it's like, oh, it's a holiday movie. If we find another holiday to name it at, that's Friday the 13th came from the title. It was title first, then figure out the plot. So because of the success of Halloween. So, but yeah, that's a great movie. Donald Pleasance and why am I blanking on her name?
Oh,
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yes, that's one.
And of course, my favorite, PJ Souls as Linda, the blonde.
Yes.
Totally.
Yeah.
Had a huge crush on her. Met her a few times in real life.
Did you really?
Yeah. She's
Was she
very,
nice?
very sweet. I'll post a picture of me and good old PJ.
Oh, nice.
Linda.
I'll have to go check that out on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
Okay, what you got?
Oh, hold on. We're not done talking
we're
about
still
I
on
like to
Halloween?
just,
sorry.
we'll end up cutting a lot of stuff out, but I would just want to make sure that we're not just naming movies,
Gotcha.
So, I think I saw Halloween for the first time when I was in high school. I was kind of late to it. Like I saw the Freddy movies and Friday the 13th movies when I was like still a kid, like a straight up kid,
Mm-hmm.
because those were huge in the 80s.
Yeah, they were.
And
I didn't see them until much later. I didn't see it until not Halloween, but Friday the 13th and the other one. I didn't see that until they had Freddy vs. Jason at the movies. When was that? 90s?
That would be.
I went to Lowe's.
No,
Do you remember Lowe's?
Yeah. Do you remember who you went with?
Did I go with you?
Yeah.
Sweet. And who else did we go with?
My brother Dan.
That's right.
It was the day after I got back from
Well, there
my
were a few other people too.
ill-fated Disney trip. I don't think so. I think it was me, you, and Dan. But there might have been. I don't
I
know.
thought there was, maybe Courtney went. I don't know.
It's possible.
Anyway, but that was the first time I'd really seen the other ones because I'd only seen bits and pieces and stuff. I have very big movie.
That's
ADD.
not the best one to start with, probably, because it wasn't that.
No, but
great
I
a
mean,
movie,
I'd
but-
seen Halloween obviously before that.
Yeah, no, Halloween, the original Halloween, like, there are some movies, like, I love Friday the 13th Part 3, but I'm not saying that it's, like, a good movie,
Mm-hmm.
you know? It's a good Friday the 13th movie, for reasons that I went into in another episode. But Halloween, as, you know, a horror movie, is a straight-up good movie.
It's a good movie. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I would recommend that one, too. In fact, it's on my list. So, good on you.
It used to be my ringtone for a while.
Really?
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
My ringtone is the theme to Quantum Leap.
That's awesome. Mine is the Wonder Woman portion of the song from the new Batman. You know when Wonder Woman comes on?
Yeah.
She's got her own little tune.
All right. I don't
That's
think I'd
mine.
know it if I heard it, but
Yeah, comes
Okay.
on and it usually scares everybody. It used to be the
Alright.
TARDIS. That used to scare everybody.
all right then. All right. So that was your pick, right? So,
Yeah.
all right. Speaking of legitimately scary movies, then, getting out of the kid zone, I want to talk about I go back and forth, but probably my favorite scary movie, The Exorcist.
That is a creepy, creepy movie.
Yeah. Now the only thing is, it's very possible that part of the reason this movie resonates with me so deeply is because I was raised Catholic.
Hmm.
And if you weren't raised Catholic, maybe it doesn't hit you quite the same way. I don't know. But raised Catholic, it was a given that these things could happen.
Well, yeah, I suppose. They have it in the ceremonies that they perform exorcisms for
They
that
do.
reason.
Well, that's
So,
and that's
yeah.
even in the movie they
It
weren't
gives-
Catholics.
it gives a bit
but
of
they
a-
they
yeah.
said we and by the way, we'll talk about this on a future episode too, I'm sure, but it's based on a real case.
Mm-hmm.
And in the real case, they weren't Catholics, but they said, call the Catholics. They deal with this kind of stuff. I was, again, as a child, I know I've talked about this before, but I was very afraid of a lot of things. And possession by the devil was one of them. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So, again, that's another reason that it resonates with me. And I remember I didn't actually see this movie as a child, which is probably a good thing. But in high school, my first serious girlfriend, Ashley, we rented it and we were going to watch it like with a group of friends. And we were going to go to Ashley's house to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
And her mom said, "Oh, what are you guys doing tonight?" You know, before, like, as Ashley was heading out to come pick me up because I didn't drive. She was like, "Oh, we're going to go rent The Exorcist and come back and watch it here." And her mom was like, "You are not going to do that. You are not bringing that movie into this house."
Oh, see?
Because her mom had seen it when she was a teenager, and it scared the shit out of her. And we brought it back, like, thinking, like, haha, like, she's being funny. She was like, "Get out. You're not watching it here." She was dead serious. So I think we ended up going to my place, and some of the
Oh, so you got
folks
around
came
that.
over. So she wasn't saying we weren't allowed to watch it.
Yeah.
She was just
not in
saying
her
we
house.
weren't allowed to watch it there because
Don't bring the
she
devil
didn't want to
into
be
her home.
scared.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. This definitely not a kids movie.
Mm-hmm.
Really intense stuff in the movie. Lots and lots and lots of foul language.
Yeah, a bit inappropriate in scenes. Yeah.
Well, I think the most obscene thing, and I'm surprised that they got away with it.
The cross thing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
when she's shoving the crucifix into her vagina.
Yeah, that's a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
But that's that whole censorship thing back then. It was a little weird.
yeah, it's very intense. I'm not complaining. Like, I'm not like, oh, I can't, but I'm just surprised they got away with it. That's all.
Anything.
But it's
Fine back
definitely
then.
a memorable scene.
It's interesting that you say that you were scared of a lot of things back then
Yeah.
in the day, which was a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Teen Cook. And yet you kind of gravitate towards those things now, because when I was looking up the movies in my list, like I was terrified of aliens. So like alien movies totally freak me out. There are no alien movies on my list because they freak the heck out of me. But you like go right for it.
Yeah. Well, and part of it, I mean, even when I was a kid, I was still attracted to everything that I was afraid of.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's
Stay
probably
clear of those.
some psychologist will have a theory as to why that is. But now I don't believe in any of that stuff, as we've talked about before, and I'm still attracted to it, though, which is also kind of weird. Because when we went out for drinks, we were talking about ghosts and stuff, because we went to Johnstone's Inn.
Yeah.
And we were talking.
Check out that episode. It's fantastic.
Yeah, episode 3.
Go listen to it.
Second highest downloaded episode.
Make it number 1.
We were at Johnstone's Inn, and we were talking about ghosts and stuff, and Jenny was telling people that I had the podcast, and they were like, oh, so you must really believe in this stuff. And I was like, yeah, you'd think that. It's like, but no, actually I don't, but I'm just really interested in it. And, you know, I'm interested as to why people believe it and why I believed it and, you know, all this stuff. But just getting back to The Exorcist, I need to tell you about a heartbreaking moment in my life.
Oh, no.
When I first started going to conventions.
Oh, I think I know this story.
Which I do all the time. Did I tell this on the show?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I think you just told me. Yeah.
I was so excited one time because Linda Blair was coming.
Mm-hmm.
So excited. However, there's this right now, October, is convention season. Around here anyway. There are 3 conventions on 3 consecutive weekends that I want to go to. I'm probably going to have to just choose 2. But in early October, there's Rock and Shock in Worcester, Mass. Then the next weekend is Super Mega Fest, which is usually in November. They're throwing me a curveball, putting it too early. That's probably the one I'm going to have to end up skipping. That's going to be in Marlboro, Mass. And then out in New Jersey, there's the Chiller Theater Convention.
Cool.
At the end of the month. So this is prime convention time. Now, Linda Blair was at this Chiller Theater Convention many, many years ago. And I was so excited. But before that one was Rock and Shock in Worcester. So when I was at Rock and Shock, Eileen Dietz, who was a stunt woman on The Exorcist, was at that convention. So I said, I know what I'll do. I'll buy an Exorcist poster here, and I'll bring it to Eileen, and I'll have her sign it. And then when I go to Chiller Theater, I'll have Linda Blair sign it.
Makes sense.
Right. So I went to Eileen Dietz. She was as lovely as could be. She was very chatty. We had a long conversation just about movies and stuff. It turns out she was also in the TV movie version, the original Helter Skelter. She was one of Charlie Manson's girls in that movie.
Interesting.
And we talked about that, and she was like, I'm going to give you a free picture from that.
Cool.
And then, she signed it. And I feel like maybe I have talked about this on the show before. I might have to cut this out. But anyway, so she was very cool, and she signed my poster, no problem. Then I went to Chiller Theater.
Bum, bum, bum.
And I met Linda Blair. And I put my poster down, and she said, oh, I know there's no way you could have known this, but I don't sign anything that Eileen has signed. She's just made too much of an issue of herself. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah, I just don't sign. And I was so shocked I didn't really respond.
Yeah.
So I think I just ended up.
It has nothing to do with me
Right.
personally.
I think I just ended up buying a picture or something. But really, I wish that I had said, you're not hurting her. You're hurting me because I already paid for the poster.
And I'm a fan.
Yeah. And I didn't even buy the poster from Eileen. So it's not like she got that sweet poster money. She got her autograph money, but she would have gotten that anyway.
Yeah.
And then what's to prevent me from getting it from you and then going to her? Because she didn't, and Eileen, by the way, didn't say anything bad about Linda at all. So, if they have a feud, it seems to be a one-way feud.
Oh, dear.
And I was really, and still am, upset about it.
Well, that stinks.
Yeah.
You look forward to meeting someone and then they end up being crummy.
Yeah. And then she handed me like a bunch of brochures about dog rescue and stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, you're a little saint, but you're holding on to grudges for whatever reason. Who knows?
Yeah.
And maybe Eileen, I think probably she's saying that Eileen takes too much credit for some of the stunts that she did, and saying that like, no, I'm the one who spat the pea soup, or who knows, whatever their issue is. But whatever it is, why am I the one that's got to suffer for it?
Clean it up. Focus on your fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Linda Blair, I'm not saying you're a bad person or anything, but for that one instance, go fuck yourself. Now that I've said that, we can move on and we can be friends. But just for that one instance, go fuck yourself.
You broke his heart.
Yeah. Now we can build a bridge and get over it. Okay. Back to you, Jenny Blades.
Oh, okay. Nosferatu.
Okay, now, there's a couple versions. You're talking
Old
about...
silent film.
Okay, from the 1920s or maybe even teens.
I don't know. I didn't
It's
write
early.
down
It's an
dates.
olden days one.
It's one of the earlies. I like the oldies.
Yeah, now that movie I have a history with because I had this game, which again, we'll probably do a whole episode about this, a VHS game, which was a thing back in the day. You'd put in the VHS tape and they'd give you instructions. I have Clue too. I still have
I think
both of these games. Doorways to Horror was one of them.
Interesting.
And it had little video clips, but they were all basically like stuff that had to be in public domain.
Okay, so
they weren't
Nosferatu
like showing.
was in there.
So Nosferatu was in there. But the clip where you see his shadow coming up the stairs and his hand is like elongated, that used to scare the shit out of me. And it's still a really creepy image. And as a matter of fact, when I'm coming up the stairs to my apartment now, I look at my shadow sometimes and I do that. I try to do that with my hand, like to make it look like Nosferatu, because it's like the same kind of stair. Like, yeah. So yeah, I have a history with that one. But do you have things to say about it?
That one I love. Well, I just love silent films anyway, because any silent film you watch is just totally creepy.
Yeah.
And I think it's just great. I mean, the guy who's the vampire, I forget his name, but he's so creepy.
Count Orlok?
Yeah, I can't think of the actor.
Max Schreck is the actor.
Yeah.
Count Orlok is... Because the story's Dracula.
Yeah.
But they were trying to avoid copyright issues.
Yeah.
So they renamed the character Count Orlok, but actually they still got sued. And it was all copies were supposed to have been destroyed.
And wasn't Shadow of the Vampire?
I was going to ask you if you'd seen that.
I have seen that. I have that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I love... Yeah.
Willem Dafoe as Max Schreck.
Mm-hmm.
Only in this version, he's an actual vampire.
Yeah.
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 So it's a fictitious, retelling of the story of making Nosferatu.
But apparently the actor did kind of dive into the role, didn't he? I thought I had read that someplace that he kind of really threw himself into it.
Yeah, but he wasn't an actual vampire.
No, he wasn't an actual vampire, no.
But still.
I love it. He's creepy. I love it.
Not everyone will appreciate silent movies, but for those of us who do, Nosferatu is definitely probably king of the horror movies. Yeah. As far as that goes.
Yeah,
Maybe only Phantom of the Opera would rival it, but as far as a straight up scary movie, Nosferatu is scarier than Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah. But if it's black and white and silent, creepy. Yeah.
He's definitely one of the creepier vampires too. He's not a handsome Dracula. That's one big difference too.
No, and is it Salem's Lot? That vampire is similar to
he's kind of based on...
He's very much like that, with the long fingers and the bald head and the two-fang teeth thing.
Right.
I also figured out that I really enjoy vampire movies. That's another thing. Yeah. Vampires, love them. Aliens, no. Vampires, yes.
Very good. All right, anything else there? Or ready for my next pick?
Go ahead.
Okay. I think this is as modern as I get on my list. There are some pretty decent horror movies out there that get made, but, for me, it seems like 60s and 70s was kind of a heyday. And then if you want slasher movies, obviously the 80s. Mm-hmm. But a rare exception of a movie that really sticks out in my mind that was a horror movie, spooky kind of movie, would be 1999's Stir of Echoes.
I've never seen that.
Starring Kevin Bacon.
I love Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
And I love bacon.
Well, basically, the story of this one is, it's just a regular working class family, and they're having a cookout or something, And his Kevin Bacon's sister-in-law is like super into like hypnotism and all that kind of gobbledygoo. And he's like, "Oh yeah, come on, hypnotize me. Go ahead, I dare you." And then she does. And he wakes up and like doesn't really think anything happened, but everyone's like, "Oh, you were out for like 40 minutes," and like whatever. And but the problem is now randomly he keeps like having little flashes of this scene, and you see like a hand fall, and you keep hearing the Rolling Stones song "Painted Black" over and over again, and he sees like a light bulb, and he gets these little flashes of like horrible things happening, and he sees like blood and hair and like a crime scene. He's definitely seeing something. And so he I don't want to ruin it, and then he eventually starts to see a ghost and all this stuff. So I don't want to ruin the movie, especially where you haven't even seen it.
Wow.
But Stir of Echoes, I definitely recommend it. 1999's Stir of Echoes, starring Kevin Bacon.
Now, this is probably one of those movies that I used to watch as a kid, and now if I were to watch it now, it was probably going to be really bad. But Dracula 2000? With Gerard Butler?
I don't know if I've seen that one.
Came out in 2000, obviously.
With Gerard Butler?
Gerard Butler, he plays Dracula. Or the vampire in it.
No, I definitely didn't see it.
Takes place modern day. He's somehow brought back. He's like kept in a customs house, and he comes back and terrorizes and all that jazz. It's great. Yeah. But it's probably one of those movies that like I used to watch. So we talked about this before, that you watched a lot when you were younger, and then you watch it again and you're like, oh.
Yeah, well, let's not pretend like you were a child in 2000.
No, but I mean, I don't know how great it would be nowadays.
Yeah.
But it's still one of those movies that like I'm like, I still have to put it on the list because I really enjoyed it back then. So.
Yeah. So you were a teenager in 2000.
Yeah.
All right. Is that all you have I don't have anything to say about that one.
No, it's a decent event. It's a Dracula movie.
Yeah.
Yay, vampires.
Well, since you're going high school, I'll go high school.
Okay.
And I remember this is another one. I was dating Ashley at the time. Getting a group of friends together. We're trying to figure out if we're going to go to the movies or not. And we decide we're going to. Now, keep in mind, the internet was a thing, but it wasn't in every home. And this was back when you probably still had to pay like by the minute and everything. I definitely didn't have it in my house. Like things,
AOL.com. Yeah.
Yeah. Things just weren't like known automatically like they are today. Like everything as soon as it happens.
Yeah.
So if a movie came out, a movie could come out and you'd be vaguely aware of it. And not know like every detail and who's in it and stuff. Now it's like you're forced to know it if you go online. Like you're inundated with ads and whatever else. But I remember we were trying to figure out a movie, and someone was like, "All right, let's go see Scream." Blah blah blah. And we were like, "What's Scream?" I don't know, some kind of horror movie. So we walked in just thinking like, "Okay, yeah, it's just a horror movie, whatever." And it blew our minds.
Really?
Now that might sound like I'm overstating it, but I'm telling you, if you had lived through the slasher movies and all that kind of stuff and grown up watching that stuff, and then you went to see Scream, which was a movie that made light of all the tropes that you see in horror movies, it blew your mind. And it was like a hip, young movie. Now, if you watch it now and you didn't grow up that way, like you if you're younger, basically every horror movie now has comedy in it. And is kind of self-referential and makes fun of itself. And they all try to be hip and, with different levels of success. But this was the first movie that really did that. In a teenage sense. American Werewolf in London played into the humor of the horror, too. And there were a few other movies. But this was the one that, like, it was like a teenage movie made for teenagers that, had a teenage sense of humor about it. And made fun of horror movies, and yet still had the scares, still had the gore, still had everything you wanted from this kind of movie. And, the sequels got worse and worse as they went. But maybe not worse and worse, because Scream 4 I didn't think was all that bad.
I didn't even know there was a Scream 4.
Yeah. Nev came back. Everything.
I stopped at 1.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But, well, that's really the one. Like, that's the good one. And one of the things I'm excited about, Rock and Shock this year, Skeet Ulrich and Matthew Lillard are going to be there.
I did see that the other day, yeah.
Well, Scream, of course, was directed by Wes Craven, who brought us the Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
Mm-hmm.
Henry Winkler played the principal.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Which I thought was like the
That was
coolest
pretty
thing because
cool.
that was the Fonz from Happy Days.
That was kind of like when he started to really come back.
Yeah. And even, oh fuck, what's his name? The guy who's not Seth Green.
The guy who's not Seth Green.
Yeah. The one who played like the dorky character who like knew all the rules of the horror movies. And he was in Son of the Mask and like made a million shitty movies. I don't know, cut this part out. But it's his only good like movie role. He had a show, like a prank show. Jamie Kennedy.
Nice.
It's Jamie Kennedy's only good movie that I can tell. And now he'll write me a whiny email or make a documentary about me heckling him. That's kind of inside, but he made a movie about hecklers, and it was basically him whining that people don't like him.
Oh, that's a shame.
I was like, oh, this will be a cool documentary about comics and how they deal with hecklers. And it was like him, like, well, why'd you heckle me, man? Why don't you like me? Why don't you? Jamie, if you just need friends, I'm happy to be friends with you.
Cool. Bring him on. You can talk about Scream.
Yeah. Or I could introduce you to Linda Blair, and you can be miserable pricks together.
Oh, jeez.
Still taking digs at Linda Blair, even though I said we're going to build a bridge and get over it. All right. Back to you, Jenny Blades.
Okay. Shaun of the Dead.
Good choice.
Yeah. Little British going on.
That's right. You are kind of an Anglophile.
I am. I love that.
Yeah.
That's a funny one. And I don't typically go for zombies. But
yeah, that's what I've told people about that movie. Like, because they're like, oh, I don't really like zombie movies. And it is definitely a zombie movie.
It's totally a zombie movie, but it's not really. It's a comedy.
Yeah.
It's what's his face. He's hilarious.
Simon Pegg.
Thank you. I don't know anyone's names. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But I love Shaun of the Dead.
It is a very good movie.
It's different. It's got twists, but it's also a comedy. So
yeah. I think my favorite part, and probably a lot of people's favorite part, is when Queen's Don't Stop Me Now starts playing on the jukebox.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And they begin to rhythmically beat on the zombies. Yeah. Yeah. It's a good movie. There's certain things I'm debating whether I should tell, but I got laid not too long ago after watching that movie with a girl. So, good memories.
Oh, there we go. 2 months ago.
That and horror movies are good for that, folks, by the way. There's a reason these are like date movies. And it's not just because, like they make it sound so innocent, like, the girl will like curl up on you when she's scared. Like, yeah, that's nice in like 1950s or whatever.
Yeah, and if you jump out at her though, she'll pop you one. So
it seems to me the women who know me. I'll probably cut all of this from the show, by the way, because it sounds terrible. But the women who know me, like the code word for like them making a move on me is to say like, oh, I'd like to watch a horror movie or something tonight. I've only been wrong once. I'll just say that. Yeah. Okay. Well, I might as well bring this one up. Not a horror movie, but, well, I guess depending on your values, if you're like a fundamentalist Christian or something like that, or fundamentalist anything, it would probably bother you. But the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Nice.
Has to be a Halloween classic.
Yeah, that's one of those movies that it's like not really Halloween, not really creepy,
right.
but
no, the movie itself is definitely associated with Halloween.
Yeah.
They show it on Halloween.
They
used to show it on VH1 every year. Yeah. I don't know if they still do. I don't even know if VH1 is still a thing.
The Mendon Drive-In, I think, is having Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
There's Midnight. This is the midnight movie where people dress up and they go and they throw things at the screen.
Virgin of the Night. Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Jenny and I, that's another thing.
Yeah, we went that. Yeah.
We went to that together when we were in college.
Mm-hmm.
We went to see it in Cambridge.
Yep.
And, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I was chosen.
That's right. You were chosen to be the
I just
bride.
had to go to the bathroom right at the beginning, didn't I?
Is that what happened? They pulled you in?
Yeah, I went to the bathroom and I came back out and they were like, you.
All right.
I was like, no.
There you go. I think I still have that picture somewhere, so I'll try to post that at Spooky Ass Shit.
Yeah, great. See,
college age. Jenny, you actually look pretty much the same as you did in college.
Oh, thank you.
Not a big difference. Yeah, but that was a fun night. And the Rocky Horror Show, if you don't know what it is, there's really, I don't know how you would describe it.
If you even tried to describe it, I think it would.
Yeah.
It wouldn't make
just
any sense. It's great.
Tim Curry is the motherfucking man.
Yeah, Meatloaf is in it.
Meatloaf. I had a huge crush on Magenta. We'll probably do a whole episode just about Rocky
Time
Horror
Warp.
too.
I mean, it's great. Oh my gosh, the
Yeah.
kids Time Warp. They love it.
Yeah. So, but I remember when I found
Not so much a kid movie though.
No, I remember when the first time I saw that movie was on VH1, but I had heard about it because one of my sister's friends had gone to see it in Boston, and she came back and she was like, "Oh my God, it was the wildest thing I've ever experienced." And like, keep in mind that we grew up in a small town, so like this kind of stuff was really out there.
Yeah.
For us, like transvestites and just any like it's just a wild movie.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's good.
Based on a Broadway musical, well, originally a West End musical that came to Broadway, and then they made the movie of it shortly thereafter, and it was not beloved at first, but it became like a midnight screening sensation, and now it's got this huge cult and people dress up. And although I heard that they don't do it in Cambridge anymore, I heard that shut
They
down.
stopped that a long time ago,
Did
which
they?
is so terrible.
Yeah. So.
I don't know where or who does it.
Well,
Especially when you get like you have to go get the bag of goodies and because there's you like act out parts of it for people who haven't seen it.
And there are still theaters that do like they'll host screenings here and there, but they're like they used to do it every Saturday in Cambridge. So anyway,
that's a good one. That's fun.
Yeah, that's one of my picks.
Then they started doing that with
the Rocky Horror Show from 1975.
They used to do it with Sound of Music. Did you hear that?
Yeah. That's a whole different vibe.
I had no idea that they were doing that, but I was like, I want to dress up as a nun and go because that's hilarious.
I didn't dress up, and I don't know if anybody else dressed up, but they did a sing-along with Labyrinth.
No way.
One time.
Cool.
And I went to that, but I don't remember. And there were, like, they gave us they definitely tried to Rocky Horror it up.
Yeah.
They're trying to find the new Rocky Horror. I think it's just getting,
leave it as
they're thinking
Rocky
it's a little
Horror.
bit old and everything, but
no,
Rocky Horror still speaks to all the weirdos out there like me. I never questioned, there's a lot of homosexual and bisexual and gender questioning and all that kind of stuff in that movie. And I never had those issues, aside from the fact that a lot of my interest might, like, the fact that I sew and that I'm very interested in crafting and all that kind of stuff. But I never questioned my sexuality or my gender identification or anything like that. And yet, this movie still really spoke to me as I'm probably just a weirdo kid. And there's probably a lot of other people out there that were just a little bit weird too.
Well, yeah.
And I can't even say that I was like unpopular in school or anything like that. Like, I was fine.
You're the man.
I wouldn't go that far, but I was fine. And any problems I did have were probably just that I was too shy or like a little antisocial because I thought, whatever. But, I wasn't like, I don't know. I felt like a weird kid. And I guess the movie spoke to me on that level.
And I think there's a lot of people that feel like the weird kid.
Yeah.
But not necessarily like having to deal with their gender or whatever, but just something quirky about them.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of people love it. And that's why it's a classic. And they really shouldn't do anything different. Bring it back.
Yeah. All right. That was my pick. Rocky
Ooh.
Horror Picture Show from 1975.
Okay, so let's see. Well, let's do with something that's a little different. How about Pan's Labyrinth? Oh, you said you haven't seen that though.
I haven't. You can still talk about it. But I've heard it's very good and that I probably should see it.
So I believe it's Italian, the movie, because it's subtitles throughout the movie, which a lot of people kind of are turned off by, but it's well worth it. And it's set in, I believe, World War II Italy. And there's a little girl, and she ends up kind of becoming friends with this Pan, which is, a half fawn, half humanoid kind of creature. And the character is on like these stilts, and the costume is very creepy and kind of scary. And the Pan world that she kind of goes into almost in her dreams is a little dark. And it's a little creepy, and I'm not going to go into the ending or whatever, but it's kind of deep at the end, and it's not really a kid's movie. Well, plus they'd have to read all the subtitles too, but it just has a lot of creep to it, but it has a very good ending, in a way. I can't say, but
Okay.
Go check it out, Pan's Labyrinth.
All right. Yeah, that's one of the movies that I kind of feel bad that I haven't seen because it is supposed to be really good. And although, like you said, not necessarily a horror movie,
Yeah.
it definitely, a lot of horror fans talk about it, so there must be something to it that kind of follows those lines.
It's got a lot of very creepy designs to it.
Yeah.
The character
I know the,
designs,
like, monsters,
the guy
like,
with
the
the
guy that-
finger, the hands,
the
with
eyes
the
in his
eyes in his
hands, yeah.
hands and things. I mean, there's just those kind of design things that are just, they'll give you nightmares kind of stuff. But it's not necessarily a horror movie.
Right.
Fantasy.
All right.
Yeah.
Check that out.
Kind of like Labyrinth, too.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
But not necessarily horror.
No. Well, again, it's not necessarily to me that these movies have to be horror movies, but it's just that they have a special...
Halloweenness.
Yeah. To me, Labyrinth doesn't have that. Again, not a terrible
but it's a
movie,
good
but
one.
if I went over someone's house and they were like, oh, we're going to watch creepy Halloween movies, what do you got? And they said, oh, we're going to watch Labyrinth. I'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
Good movie,
We
but...
couldn't watch that next month?
Yeah. All right. Okay, so this next one, again, going old school, but this is a family-friendly choice as well. This actually would be a great introduction to the old Universal monsters for your kids, even though this was the last movie that Universal made with their classic monsters. Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein in 1948.
I've never seen that.
I'll let you borrow it
Sweet.
if you want. Now, the thing about the old Universal horror movies, I love them.
I love them.
Yeah.
Because
And a
Bela
lot of
Lugosi
people-
is on my list, too.
Yeah. A lot. Well, he's a vampire guy. You like your vampires.
I like my vampires.
But a lot of people love the Universal movies. Now, my particular fondness for them grew out of when the Sci-Fi Channel first came on. They had the Moonlight Matinee.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times they would show the old Universal horror movies, and that was kind of my first exposure to them. And I would watch those movies, and I loved them. I loved the atmosphere they had. I loved the look of everything and the style of acting that was in it. It was all very stylized, and you knew a Universal horror movie when you saw it. You know, no matter what monster was featured, or later on when they started doing what they call the monster rallies, where all the monsters were in it.
Mm-hmm.
No matter which actors were playing the monster, like they just had a certain feel, and some are better than others, and you know, some are true classics, and some are, you know, maybe not.
Yeah.
But this Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. Abbott and Costello are a comedy team, of course, and this is a comedy movie, but they don't insult the integrity of the monsters, I guess is what I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the monsters are still monsters. They're just chasing these comedians.
That's awesome.
So,
though.
yeah. But what's really cool about it is Bela Lugosi plays Dracula
Oh, nice.
for the last time. For the first time in many years, and for the last time.
Aw.
And Lon Chaney Jr., who played the Wolfman originally, plays the Wolfman. It is a little bit sad that Boris Karloff didn't come back to play Frankenstein. However, an actor named Glenn Strange played Frankenstein, and he'd actually been playing the character in the last two Universal movies.
Okay.
So he had a history already with the character. So it was interesting to see him there, too. Then, at the very end of the movie, there's almost a cameo by the Invisible Man. Of course, you don't see him, but he is voiced by Vincent Price.
Oh, nice.
So really, you get a lot of bang for your buck with Abbott and
Yeah.
Costello Meet Frankenstein.
Abbott and Costello had a lot of pull.
Yeah.
Nice.
And they went on to make Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy, or the Abbott and Costello Meet the Invisible Man. They might have made both. I don't remember. I'll edit that so it sounds like I know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
But it didn't have all the monsters in it and everything. But so Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein was made in 1948, which is almost 20 years after Dracula, which was the first of like the big cycle of Universal monsters. You could go back to Hunchback or Phantom of the Opera from the 20s if
But
you
now
want
you're
to
getting
start.
those
But
silent film things.
yeah, and so the real Universal cycle that, you know, the classic monsters, Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman.
Was it Swamp Thing?
Creature from the Black Lagoon,
Creature from the Black Lagoon,
that
that's
came
right.
later.
Okay.
That came in the 50s.
Mm.
But they're good movies too. And he is definitely a Universal monster and considered that way.
Mm-hmm.
But really, the original classic cycle was the Dracula movies, and they had a bunch of sequels because there's Dracula and then House of Dracula, like all this stuff. Frankenstein, Son of Frankenstein, House of Frankenstein,
Oh, yeah.
Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, like all this stuff. So it's just like now with all these superhero movies. You know, back then it was monsters. Now it's superheroes.
Yeah.
Hopefully it comes around to monsters again.
I know. That'd be
sweet.
fun. Well, I don't know. Do we really want them damaging?
Well, so when Van Helsing came out.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that.
It was a Universal monster movie. Like, it was made by Universal Pictures. Yeah. And I was like, that's great because they're going to be able to look like the actual Universal monsters. And this is the Van Helsing character from Dracula.
Yeah.
So he's going to definitely fight Dracula. And, you know, it looked like he was going to fight all these other monsters too. And then I saw the movie and I fucking hated it.
No.
It was another one. It was a little bit steampunky with all his little contraptions and inventions and everything. And I just like, ugh, come on.
Yeah. And the vampires weren't great.
I barely even remember it.
I just remember being like, ugh.
Yeah. So I thought the other thing we could talk about is movies that we haven't seen that maybe we feel like we should have.
Okay.
By now.
Okay.
So, you want to go first?
Sure. This one you said you already saw. So, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari?
Caligari, yes.
That's another silent black and white film, old one. And when I was looking up the horror movies and Halloween movies today, that one came up, and I've never seen it, and it sounds awesome.
Yeah, the somnibus, is that, I forget how they pronounce it or how you say it, but sleeping. He's sleeping, and the doctor has this guy basically, and I should know the character's name, and I'm blanking on it. But yeah, he's got this like essentially a zombie kind of thing is what you're led to believe. But he sleeps, and then he follows the doctor's orders, and all sorts of hijinks ensue. But Caligari himself is like a showman. He's like doing like a carnival kind of thing. Yeah, he's got like this, sleeping zombie guy named Caesar. And he's kind of like displaying him like in a carnival sideshow way, and saying like he'll awake when I tell him to, and he does what I say, and that kind of stuff, and he'll go right back to sleep when I want him to. But of course,
then he starts killing people.
Some hinky things happen, and
it just seems
the plot
awesome.
thickens from there.
And plus, it's that old black and white silent film thing.
Yeah.
So I like that guy. He's cool.
So there was a lot of movies that I thought of for the list and everything, but like, especially when I was trying to think of movies that it might be fun to watch with your children, The Bad Seed came to mind.
Bad Seed?
Yeah. But it's not really, again, thinking of movies that are like good for Halloween season. It is about a little girl who murders to get things that she wants. And she basically like, like when on
salt on crack.
Yeah, well, if it reminds me a lot of like when Cartman on South Park is like sweet to his mom all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Like, mommy, I'm the best boy, and I'm your little, blah blah blah. Like that's what this girl is like too. But then she'll like, that was mine, first place in the spelling bee. I should have won it. And then you find out that she like killed someone to get,
Oh my
so
gosh.
like all this stuff. Yeah, but it was originally a play, and it's shot in a way, it's very theatrical the way it's shot and everything. I would definitely recommend that movie. But again, trying to think of movies that are right. Like what movies have a special Halloweenness to them, or you'd get more out of watching them around Halloween. So that was part of my criteria. I'm not saying these are the best movies ever made. Not even saying these are necessarily the best movies for Halloween, but just movies that are good to enjoy around Halloween time. Oh, I forgot to mention the one that I haven't seen yet that I feel guilty about having not seen. Any of the Hellraiser movies.
I've never seen them.
With Pinhead?
Yeah, I've never seen them.
So I guess I got to go back and watch the original Hellraiser. Because that seems like a movie I definitely should have seen. That's a very popular horror icon.
Have you ever seen Something Wicked This Way Comes?
No.
A friend of mine used to talk about it all the time when I was younger. And I don't think I've ever seen it. And it seems like it's a creepy movie.
Yeah. All right.
I would have thought you would have seen it. But I'm surprised you didn't talk about the Halloween that almost wasn't.
Well, I did a whole episode about it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Did I miss that?
Apparently.
You know why I missed it? I can tell you why. Because I haven't seen it. And I saw the pictures.
We can change that right now if you want. So we'll hit stop and we'll watch the Halloween that almost wasn't.
We're gonna pause a minute. Watch the movie.
I'll be going to that mansion.
That's
in just a couple weeks. So pretty excited about that.
Very cool.
Even though on their website they list things that filmed there, and it doesn't include the Halloween that almost wasn't.
You're gonna have to tell them.
I'm sure they know, and they probably just think, no one cares about that. They are super wrong. I super care about that. I'm really excited to go.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go to Dracula's castle.
Nice.
And the witch's castle. They use them for both locations, but
Nice.
yeah, it's 2 for 1.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, I guess that wraps it up for our Halloween movie recommendations. You've got the whole month of October to watch these, and hopefully you check some out. And if you do, let us know. Hit us up on Facebook, or you can write to us at spookyasshit@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought. Let us know if you have recommendations, things that we left out that you feel like could be included maybe for next year on our official list of your Halloween viewing.
You should make a list.
Yeah.
People can go to and check it out.
Yeah, well, this will be listed on the website.
Oh, yeah.
So.
I mean, yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Until next time, watch these movies, but don't be afraid.